How's it going, wrestling fans? Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Wrestle Report, episode 17 with Phil and Don. I am Phil.
And I'm down.
It's been a while since we've had this much to talk about on one show, but we got three different companies to talk about. A lot of big news. Pay-per-views just ended, pay-per-views coming up, and a lot of stuff in between building to even bigger ones. So let's jump right into it. We're going to jump into what happened over the weekend. NXT TakeOver Vengeance Day. Last episode, I called it only Vengeance. I had no idea they added a day in there. But apparently it was called Vengeance Day. I did not know that. I saw the big words of vengeance and assumed that's what they were going with. A lot of great stuff on this show. I have not been this excited for an NXT show in a while that I thought this one was. You know, the card was great. A lot of potential for a lot of different things to happen. The results, like, I guess what I'm trying to say is I expected a title change somewhere, but the fact that it didn't happen didn't ruin it for me at all because the matches were just so great. And plus the big twist at the end, which of course we'll get to. When I do bother to watch shows like this, I almost always had the pre-show on. I'm not always paying attention, but it's at least on in the background. But to me and my weird fandom, the biggest news of the night happened on the pre-show because Eli Drake showed up, and I kind of lost my shit because I'm a bit. Well, I'll talk about this more in a minute. But I was really happy to see him there, and then the name change kind of killed it for me. Eli Drake now going by L.A. Knight. Not the worst name I've ever heard, but there's nothing wrong. It's 2021. Guys jump to WWE and they keep their name. Right? There's no reason Eli Drake couldn't. But I mean, I'll jump to you first. How much experience do you have seeing Eli Drake? Do you know much about him? And what do you think about the name change?
I haven't heard much about him, but I had to do my research.
Mm-hmm.
I did my research on him, and it seems like he's a great promo. He reminds me a lot of Austin Aries.
Yeah.
In a promo game. Like he's real disrespect. He could get real disrespectful on his own.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to see what we can get out of the matches. He looks great in the ring too, so he backs it up. I'm excited to see what's gonna happen.
Yeah,
the potential matches that we could actually have.
He really went mainstream. He was on TNA when they were transitioning into Impact Wrestling, like the name change and everything. He was champion, and back then I thought, all right, this is a solid guy for TNA/Impact to hitch their wagon to. He's funny on the mic at the time. He didn't call people like he didn't go stupid idiot, but just the way he would call people an idiot was kind of his thing back then. And I thought he was fine. And then NWA kicked back up, and that shows about it's as important to be a promo on NWA because they have the old school like interview booth kind of on Power when that finally comes back. We're hearing April, who knows, fingers crossed. But his promos on NWA just blew me away. I went from like, yeah, that guy's pretty good to being a huge fan of this guy to the point where, Austin got the word what over. Obviously, that's how over Stone Cold is. Eli got the word yeah over. He'd be like, yeah, I'm going to get in that ring. Yeah. And then I'm going to do this. Yeah. And like, he didn't quite get there on his promo tonight, but I really hope he brings that with him into WWE. He always starts his promos with "Let me talk to you," which he did on this night. So that's one of them down. But I mean, his in-ring work is great. Fine. There's no he might have to work the WWE style a little bit more, but no, if they let him loose on promos, he's going to be fantastic. And his ceiling is unmatched. He could be anywhere. I just hope it's not a EC3 situation where they bring this guy in with a lot of buzz with the same thing. They could have done EC3 could have been main event in WrestleMania this year. Like it could have happened if treated right. So I just hope. I don't know how long he needs to be in NXT. He's not the youngest dude out there. I think he's like 38 when I did my research, something like that. I like him on NXT because there's plenty of talent for him to work with, but I think he's someone that needs to go to the main roster sooner than later. So like, I don't know. He wasn't on NXT this week, right? Because I was watching AEW. He didn't have like a match or anything, or did he?
He didn't have a match, but he had a promo.
Did he use the promo? Yeah?
No, it was a video recording.
Okay. Package, got it. All right.
Like at a home. Yeah, a little video package.
Gotcha. So, I mean, I'm definitely gonna have to check NXT every week now to see what he's up to. Again, don't love the name. Maybe it'll grow on me, but granted, they kept it the same. His other thing is always Eli Drake. They kept the name in such a way that he could still do the LA Knight. He can still do his pointing and everything. I'm excited to see what they do with him for sure. Kind of hurts NWA. Like I said, they've been losing talent left and right because they haven't been producing. But I think when they come back, they're just going to scoop into like the kind of lesser known indie guys to get going again. So I think they're going to be fine. Kind of a blow to NWA. But I mean, again, he's not getting any younger. So I like that he's going to get his chance to, really. NXT is probably going to lose some guys post Mania, and happens every year. I think he's gonna fill a lot of he could fill multiple spots at once. I think he's that talented. But so the show starts with that, so I'm already jazzed. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be great. Like the pre-show got me fired up. How often does that ever happen?
Rarely.
Yeah, yeah, almost never. Unless they throw a battle royal on the pre-show, I'd never give a shit. But this really, I'm excited to see it. I'm gonna have to, keep an eye on NXT even when I'm watching AEW. If his match is coming on, that's a flip over moment for me because I think he's that good. And in a couple weeks when you see him, I want to know your opinion because if you're kind of new to him, the promos you're gonna show up for the promos, but you're gonna stay for the matches because he is also very good and very charismatic in the ring. So that was the pre-show, and again, I'm already jazzed up. And then the show starts, and we kind of got a lot to get to, so we might not go match by match, but I do want to say the North American Championship match was great. I was a little bummed that Kushida didn't win, but overall, I think this is a match you can revisit down the line because Kushida still looked like $1 million in this. Again, I was just a little confused because we talked about it last week. I don't think Gargano needs the title necessarily, but this match was great. It was every bit as good as advertised.
See, and I told you in the last episode, I was like, this match is gonna steal the show.
Yes.
He's gonna steal the show. I understood how he lost though. Because they protected him. They basically protected the hell out of Kushida on that. For the finish, with Johnny Gargano hitting the DDT on the ramp and then hitting another DDT in the ring. So yeah. I understand why Kushida couldn't kick out of that. Those arm bars, man. Kushida got them arm bars for days. Man.
Yeah,
it's sick.
And as crazy as this match was, I don't know that the feud's over. Like it's in a situation where they might skip a beat, don't jump right back into it. But I don't think this is over with necessarily. So I'm looking forward to it. Kushida, great showing. That match went 25 minutes. I mean, that was some great stuff. I did jump the gun. I thought that was the opening match. It would have made a great opening match, but we did have a good opening match, which was the Women's Dusty Classic finals. You were right. I was wrong. I had Ember Moon and Shotzi, and Raquel and Dakota did take it, but this was a great showing for the first Women's Dusty Classic match. It's really going to set the bar, much like when the men kicked this off and Finn Balor and Samoa Joe won the whole thing, really set the standard for these great tournaments we've seen. And I think this did the same thing. It's going to be a tough act to follow for the ladies involved next year.
Oh yeah, for real, man. I'm happy that they won. The right people won. The right team won. It's still Ember Moon and Shotzi Blackheart still look great. They still look great in defeat. So I'll take that because I love me some Ember Moon.
Yeah. Do you think they get their title shot maybe at Fastlane or like
actually they already announced it actually?
Okay, brother. hit me with it.
Yeah, they announced it on yesterday on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
They announced that it's going to be on March the 3rd.
Okay. Is that just NXT?
No, because it's just straight NXT.
Oh,
but
okay.
Also March the 3rd is an AEW special. That's the Shaq versus Cody match.
Oh, okay.
Shaq, yeah.
Well, I mean,
so they're trying to do a little counter programming.
I mean, no offense to the ladies involved, but I don't think that's touching a Cody Shaq encounter. I don't if that's their counter, that's not a good counter necessarily. I would have liked it to be on. We'll give them a good. I used to say a big stage, but now every stage is kind of the same because we're in COVID. But that would have been a good Fastlane match, I think. But hey, it's still good TV for them. I think it will be a great match. So, but that's good that they announced it right away. Did they do this for the men's too, or is that still remain?
Okay, that still remain to be.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So
they might do it on the same day though.
I could see it. That could be the whole show. I mean, those matches could go some time, and next thing you know, 2 hours is up. MSK defeats Grizzled Young Veterans. I did get this one right. I think we both picked them for this actually, but no, they looked fantastic. This is hey, we're here now, and this is how things are going to be. great match, a little bit shorter than the women's, but it was a lot more fast paced. So I think it felt the same amount because we got a doomsday device from the young
Oh my
veterans. That was
gosh,
insane.
that was nasty, bro. I thought he was dead, bro.
Yeah.
I thought he was dead.
Yeah, but this was a great match, great showing from these guys that, unless you watched Impact, which let's be honest, not everybody does, you're not going to know these guys very well. But after a match like this, you're really going to know what they're about. And the young veterans, they're great. They're going to go back to NXT UK. This doesn't really hurt them at all. But clearly, much like I said, we're going to lose some guys post WrestleMania and NXT. These guys are going to fill the slot of any tag team that leaves in the near future. So that was great.
Oh yeah, I guess I could definitely see them on Raw right away. Actually, they don't need to do anything else. It sucks that they didn't win the NXT title. They won the UK title, but not the NXT tag title. It sucks that they didn't win that, but they're still good enough to make it to the main roster, I think, and they could win. They could beat some of these teams that are there already. They're great promo. Gibson, nasty. I like Gibson.
Yeah, I mean I've seen him. I know more of him than I do of James Drake. I've seen a lot more Zach Gibson from like when What Culture had their own wrestling promotion and stuff. He was on there, so I've definitely seen him a lot more. But they make a great team for sure. And then MSK, I think they're going to be the next dynasty team on NXT. Obviously we'll get to it. The Undisputed Era that have kind of held that won't really be in that spot for any longer, as we'll talk about later. But no, this is a great team that I think we could see that on. I had some streaming issues during the women's title match, so I'm going to throw this one over to you because I sadly did not get to see much of this.
Well, I would say this was another good match. Unfortunately, I felt like the previous 3 matches were all bangers. So it's like damn, man. I've been they started at 10 already from jump.
Yeah.
From the pre-show to this match, it was just straight 10s across the board.
Yeah.
So I was trying to keep myself up there. It just didn't meet my the satisfaction that I wanted it to be, because I thought it was going to be a great match. I would have thought it would have been a great match. It was still a good match though.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. It was just compared to the other matches that was going on, it doesn't touch it. And I felt like it got cut short too, because it was a spot. I laughed hard. I laughed at this part because I thought it was hilarious. Toni Storm was like setting up the table, and like she touched the table, and the table just.
Oh, I did see that. I saw that after the fact. So yeah, that kind of sucked. I'm sure that took off some time.
Yeah.
It says here it was only a little over 12 minutes, which is the shortest match on the show. But I mean, one match is gonna get that. It's gonna happen to one of them, and you get women's championship matches all the time, but this is the first Dusty Classic, so I could see the extra time going to that instead of this. But I'm sure that easily shaved off a minute or two, not getting to do the table.
It was actually because if you look at after that, it seemed like they just rushed to the finish.
Yeah.
Because it seemed like there was supposed to be a spot where probably Mercedes was on the table, and Io Shirai was going to jump from the scaffolding, not from the scaffolding, but like there's like
the barrier thing they have.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the gray barriers up top that's taller than those stuff. So like, and she climbed it up and she jumped off of it and landed on both of them. So I was thinking that's probably a spot that was supposed to be for the table.
Probably.
And then it probably was going to be like a one-on-one with Toni Storm and Io. But Io won. What happened? I think it was a submission. Yeah, there was a submission by Mercedes Martinez, and Io did the moonsault.
Okay. I think what I had it back by then. I missed the table thing. That's why I didn't know about it till after the fact. I saw the table was broken. I assumed somebody went through it, but I didn't know that it was just going to explode on contact here.
Yeah.
But that, like you said, one match has to, get the short end of the stick. Unfortunately, it was this one, but I could see on this card why that would be the case. But like you said, that probably also had to do with the table spot kind of rushing to the end after that. Similar, and it's not just them. It has nothing to do with them being on NXT or it being a women's match. We saw the same thing for Roman and KO when the handcuff staff
The
who
handcuffs.
happened, right? Boom, right to
Yeah.
the finish. So like, I don't blame them at all. Things happen. It is what it is. We're gonna,
Live TV, baby.
yeah. Hey, we can talk about we got another live TV spot to mention later on the AEW side of things. So things happen, and we kind of move forward. Main event time, and holy hell was this ever won. This I'm gonna go ahead and call it. This was the best match under the WWE banner since Edge and Orton greatest match ever. Like, I know they booked it that way and it was cheesy, but as back and forth and like emotionally draining as that match was, this was exactly the same. How Finn Balor still has fingers attached to his hands, I have no idea. This match was brutal. I know I say this phrase every once in a while, but this got difficult to watch in a good way, as brutal as it was. And like, I could talk about this for days. It got to the point, it's like, wow, they're still going at it. Like, it says here that it was 25 minutes. It felt 45, just how brutal they were going.
Like a long ass time.
And multiple times did I think Pete Dunne was actually going to win the title, because I've even saw an article today that Finn Balor admitted that when he went back to NXT, he didn't think it'd be for this long. So, or that he'd at least be on top for this long. He thought it was kind of a quick ratings boost type thing. But no, I could easily have seen Dunne had this match won, I think, 5 different times. And yeah, I'll let you jump in, because I have one nitpick towards the end, but I'll let you give your thing. This was fantastic.
Yeah, it was once again, it was a great match. This whole card was filthy, man. It was freaking filthy.
It really was.
I loved it, man. That was just the icing on the cake for that match. Was that match?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love the finger manipulation from Dunne to Balor. I don't know if you noticed it. You know how Balor does the whole point thing at the end?
Mm-hmm.
He was really selling those finger
at the end there.
pulls, and yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Balor is just I love Balor on NXT than Raw or SmackDown. I think he does better, yo.
He does way better, but it has nothing to do with him. They could make him this badass on Raw or SmackDown, but probably Raw, and they chose not to. And granted, part of that is he won we'll never know if he won the Universal title and didn't get hurt, if we're not getting this type of shit from him on Raw. We'll never know. But when he came back, they made the decision to not roll with him in that way. So that's on them. Whereas the injury's on nobody, but how you react to the injury. We've seen this 100 times. We've seen guys come back from, look at Edge, man. You granted he's a trusted, proven guy that you can give this to, but I mean, Triple H has come back from injuries. Austin, Angle, Rock. If you want this guy, Reigns came back from cancer. I mean, if you can, the injury really shouldn't be an issue. I understand it sucked. It was the first champion, Universal champion, and it gets taken away. The same thing happened here with Cross, not the first champion, but wins the title, have to vacate it. I think once he's back gunning for the title again, it'll be like he never left. So they've proven that they can do this the right way, and they just chose not to with Finn. But the positive thing is we get to see this kick-ass stuff on NXT. Again, this might be a nitpick, but as this match was going on, Dunne was really getting it in towards the end. I think we're in the last 3-4 minutes of the match here. And the ref Balor's in the ropes, and the ref kind of made Dunne kind of stop his siege, right? For whatever reason, he really made him stop, and it stopped the whole momentum. And then Balor got up and did his sling. He went into his, greatest hits finishing of a match. And had that ended the match, it would have killed it for me, because for some reason they just stopped the momentum. You might have to go back and look. I can point out exactly where it is, but luckily Dunne kicked out, and then they went into a real finish. I thought Dunne was going to win 2 more times, but had that been the ending, it would have completely killed it for me. But they were able to get. It was imagine you're going 80 miles an hour in your car, and then you hit a pothole, and then you go down to 20, and you're just like, oh, what happened there? Oh no, I'm good. And then you get back up to 80. That's exactly what happened. There was just a moment where everything stops dead for no reason that I could find. And then, Balor kind of just awkwardly gets up and starts doing moves to Dunne again, but they get right past that. But this was fantastic. And I tweeted out, this was the best match on NXT I've seen in a long time. And I put my phone down thinking that's the last thing I have to tweet about for the night. And boy, was I wrong. Because the Undisputed Era come out, and, they're jumping. Explain this to me again. I'm trying. I remember the end result, but did they jump? They jumped Balor right after the match or something, right?
What happened was Danny Burch and Oni Lorcan
That's
came
what it was. I knew I was missing a component. So he comes out. They're
they
beating
come on
Balor,
and they beat him up,
and
and
then
then Kyle O'Reilly comes out,
go
and
ahead.
then
You got this.
and then Adam Cole and Roderick Strong come out, and they beat up all three of them. They sent them out. So they all do the point, do the the UE, and Balor does his thing with his knuckles all.
Which before we get to this, I do want to mention that Balor will was forever be known as a Bullet Club member, former Bullet Club leader. While it was short lived, Adam Cole was also a Bullet Club member. I don't think O'Reilly ever got in there, but like he was that same type of guy from Ring of Honor. And like to me, this was like because like AEW's doing Bullet Club type things, and I thought this was going to be their version of it for a minute. Like, oh, is Balor gonna join the Undisputed Era, or is he gonna take it over from Cole or something like that? And then just the he kicks Balor, which this looked fantastic. There's even a great screenshot. I'll try and find it here, where the kick is already happening, but it hasn't registered O'Reilly yet. So his foot's like in Balor's jaw, but O'Reilly's still smiling because it happened that suddenly. Like the kick has already happened before he notices. And then, he freaks out on him and things de-escalate for a minute. And then Cole kicks O'Reilly's head off too. And just what an ending to this is peak. Like I got to watch on Wednesday to see what's going to happen next. And the other great thing, they don't do this a lot. They do it just enough that you don't think about it. But the little graphic in the bottom of the screen was there before the kick. So I'm like, all right, I can turn this off. And I'm glad I didn't because afterwards was there was some great stuff that came on after on the network.
Yeah, the Royal Rumble thing.
Yeah, the behind the scenes Royal Rumble thing, which all right, I'll get to that in a second. We'll finish talking about this. But I'm glad I didn't turn it off because it was that. I rewatched the Yokozuna thing, which is fantastic if you haven't seen it, by the way. But no, this was just you knew it was going to happen at some point. The Undisputed Era, it's almost like the Shield. They've done everything. They've conquered everyone. The only one that can take them down is from within. And that does seem to have been what happened. And then O'Reilly is kind of sided with Finn. They have a mutual respect. In kayfabe, they've been boys forever outside of it. But, like, they had those killer matches on pay-per-view. And they've earned a respect for each other that's not there between Finn Balor and Cole. And O'Reilly tried to be the peacemaker and just kind of paid the price for it.
Oh yeah, man. This is all great. This is all great, man.
Yeah.
Like you said, they've done everything they could do, bro. They've done everything, and I felt like it was planted. I felt like it was gonna be a big story to it. Once it finally comes out, it's gonna be freaking great. I feel.
Yeah, I agree, and the story has started to unfold a little bit here, but we'll know more in the coming weeks on where they're really going to go with this. Real quick on that behind the Royal Rumble thing that came out, I enjoyed it. I thought it was great. They must have started filming this before Pat, this is probably a year in the can or whatever, at least all the stuff with Pat Patterson, because obviously he passed away before this year's Royal Rumble, but there's a lot of content of him speaking about it, which was great to see. I think I mentioned last episode, the Royal Rumble is my favorite thing in wrestling, and I'm sure I'm not alone on that. A lot of people probably feel that way. But the fact that Pat Patterson got to talk about it, and I loved what we did see, but what I really wanted to see and what I thought it was going to be is, how do you structure this? Like, is everyone, all 30 people in Gorilla, sitting around with their number like a deli counter? Like, I always wanted to know the logistics of is everyone just waiting in a line for their number to get called? Like, that's what I was hoping to see from this, and we didn't quite get that. And maybe it's one of those, you don't get to know, and that's part of the mystique of it. You don't always need to know how the sausage is made. But when I heard the day of Royal Rumble special, I'm like, oh, we're gonna learn some shit here. But it wasn't quite that, but it was still very good, I thought.
Oh yeah, it was great, man. I remember you texted me during. He's like, "Yo, this Royal Rumble thing is pretty nice." I was like, "Yeah,"
because I don't always.
It's funny because I saw it before because I was watching with my boy and John, and
what up, John?
And we was also watching. We was waiting for NXT to start, the pre-show to start, and we ended up watching that. They showed that first, and then they showed the pre-show. And then Takeover, and then they showed it again. So I already saw it at first, and it was so good I wanted to watch it again.
Yeah, that's what happened with me with the Yokozuna thing. I watched it when it dropped after the Rumble, but I wanted to watch it again. It was that good. So yeah, the content on the network, man, it's almost worth it for the non-live stuff. Like I love that the non-live, and you know when Peacock jumps, I'll have to get that. But like the stuff they put together in documentary form is just amazing. Like they kick Netflix's ass even in this, the way they produce content is really second to none. And you'll never get me to say I don't even know who number 2 would be. They're like even NFL Films I think has fallen behind in the past couple of years. 30 for 30 is probably close. The ESPN 30 for 30s, new one just came
but
out.
they don't really come up with much content.
Yeah.
Not like the network does. Or like
it's better and it's more consistent and there's more of it. But it's just great. We jump over to the AEW side of things, just Dynamite, relatively chiller Dynamite, nothing earth-shattering happened on the show, but it set up a lot of good things. I want to start with this. Sting was run out, tried to run down Team Taz and took a power bomb from Brian Cage, which this is huge because I assumed the street fight was going to be a cinematic match. I think that was their way of saying, no, Sting's gonna wrestle. And he could have taken a clothesline. He could have been spilled over the top rope. No, he took a straight up power bomb. And I think that was by design. That was to show you that Sting is going to, attempt to be an actual wrestler in this, which, I could see him wanting to do at least one match where he ends that he's going to remember and not like be injured in. So and Brian Cage is safe. I'm not saying that taking it from Brian Cage was the issue, but it is a power bomb and you are a 62-year-old man or whatever, a 61-year-old man. So I think it was very speaking to just say, hey, this is going to be a real match. This won't be a cinematic thing, which I understand because you can't get people at this show thinking they're going to see Sting and show it to them on a TV. They're not going to like that, obviously. They're going to shit on the whole thing. So you got to give them the real Sting in a match in front of your face. So this is proof that they are, in fact, going to do that.
I thought that was great.
Yeah.
It kind of caught me off guard because he got hurt from Seth Rollins with the buckle bomb.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like a modified power bomb.
Mm-hmm.
And then he also has spinal stenosis.
Yeah.
So it was like he shouldn't be taking a power bomb. He really shouldn't be. But
that's what I'm saying. That move was not picked out of a hat. They did that for that reason. Which I get. And like you said, everybody, I've even heard reports, people that were there was like an uncomfortable, like out of the room, like the 1,000 people that were there were all just waiting for Sting to move again. And then when he rolled over, everyone went back to like booing or cheering or whatever they're going to do about it. But there was like a solid 5 seconds where like, did we just witness a murder? Like we just wanted to make sure that wasn't the case. And then they were fine with it again. But no, that's good news. That's, for him to take that move the way he did. Because when he gets him up for the bomb, we've seen it a million times from Sting. He'll slide down his back. He grabs the bat. He hits Brian, like chases him off. Like that's what I thought it was going to be. And the fact that he, took the move was crazy. We mentioned the little snafu during Takeover with the table breaking. Not to be outdone in any capacity. Good old JR has to I love JR. JR is the voice of my childhood. And if you are watching this show, if you've watched wrestling in the past 30 years, that's probably the case for you too. If you looked at the top 10 favorite moments in wrestling in your life, JR has been the voice of at least like 7 of them. Because if you're like a WCW guy, it was probably like Shivani and stuff. But we love JR. So we were poking fun at him and he jumped right out on Twitter. He's like, listen, I slipped. Like it happens. I'll do better is basically what he said. But for those who don't know what I'm talking about, during a transition piece to a Kenny Omega skit, he said the WWE champion Kenny Omega. It happens. Frankly, I'm surprised it hasn't happened sooner. Like it's been almost 2 full years for this to happen. I'll be honest, I watched Dynamite live as I always do. I didn't catch it. I did not know about it till when did I text you today about that? Like noonish, right? Today, right around lunchtime. That's the first time I saw it. I did not hear it live on AEW or anything like that. But go ahead. What do you got?
I had someone on Twitter. Because I was I saw someone tweeted a picture of Kenny Omega with the WWE title.
Yep,
and I was like,
I saw that
what?
too.
And then I read the caption. I said, and it said JR said it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh damn.
But yeah, so you might have saw it earlier, but when I tweeted it to you, I was texted it to you, I saw it for the first time like 30 seconds before that. I had no idea that actually happened. And this leads me to believe, because, cynical people are going to be like, oh, he's washed up. They need to get him off TV, because JR doesn't bring his A game every Dynamite. He does do, most of the time he's fine. He's a B minus to B plus of what 100% of a JR is. But to me, this is at the point now, people want him off TV and people are saying, no, just let him do whatever he wants. He's JR. I kind of want to meet somewhere in the middle here. Why don't you save JR for the pay-per-views? And even the Dynamite specials, the beach breaks, the Winters is Coming episodes. If you save him for that, it'll just give him a little, it's like a running back that you're going from 30 carries a game to 22, right? It's just enough. You're pulling him back just enough. He's not going to feel like he's getting benched or anything. But I think if you pull JR to the TV specials and the pay-per-views, when you hear that voice on AEW, this is now an important show. Like we're bringing in the big guns. And to be fair, WWE did that towards the end of his time there. He did Mania, he did Rumble. Same with Jerry Lawler. There was a point where they were only bringing him in for like these big events. And like, I love JR. If they keep him just where he is, I'm fine with it. But overall, I think that's eventually a move they should make with him.
Oh yeah. It'll definitely make it feel more special, like whatever those big matches, or even big matches, big shows, or big pay-per-views, of course. Especially since AEW doesn't really have pay-per-views like
As
every
often.
month, like WWE does. So it makes it even better, because it makes you miss JR.
Yeah. Because, like you said, they do the big four pay-per-views. They do them quarterly. They probably do at least one TV special in between those. So you're looking at a guaranteed 8 shows a year with JR, and then you can sneak him in here and there. Like, that's fine. But maybe a weekly basis isn't what he needs to be doing right now. And I had this theory before this slip up, but it just came into the public eye because of it. I thought it was something that would have made a lot of sense. And I think eventually AEW is going to, they do 4 pay-per-views. They might move it to like 6 once like the pandemic's over and they really get rolling again. I could see that happening. I mean, before the pandemic, the next pay-per-view was supposed to be in London. The beach, not the beach break, but the Fighter Fest, I think, was supposed to be in London before they had to cancel, everything. Yeah. So I could see them moving up with that. But no, I love JR. I don't bring this up to make fun of him. I bring it up to acknowledge him the way we acknowledge the table spot. It's nobody's fault. Things happen. But I would love to see JR be looked at as, business is picked up because JR is here. I think he's earned that role. I think he earned that role 10 years ago. But, it would be great to see him, and just like when he's here, this is a big deal. Big match, Jim Ross is what we could start calling him. Bring him in for that. But for now, take it easy on the guy. All right, he's here because he loves it. It's not the money. He could sit home and he makes enough money off royalties to live his life comfortably. He's here because he loves the business. He wants to give back to it. Hearing him and Shivani together is still like amazing, because you never thought you'd see that. And Excalibur's gotten better from sitting with these guys too, because he has all the knowledge. He can just spew out everything, but you got to do it in an entertaining way. And I think the more he's sitting with these guys, it's actually helped.
Oh yeah, I like Excalibur.
Yeah, I do too. It's, for a while he was too encyclopedia-like. Like, you'd bring someone in and he'd give you their whole backstory in 30 seconds. I'm like, I'm not going to remember any of that, and I'm overwhelmed now. Thanks. But he's gotten to the point where if their match is 5 minutes, he'll give you one of those facts every minute instead of all of it in 30 seconds. Like, he's gotten way better at that. The other big AEW news was the main event for Revolution has been set. Moxley and Omega for the AEW Championship in a exploding barbed wire death match. Now, there's a lot of directions we can take this. I'm going to start by asking you a simple question. Have you ever played the game Fire Pro Wrestling? Any iteration of it?
No, I have not.
All right, so
I do know the match.
Okay.
I've seen the Mick Foley versus Terry Funk match.
So for me, because I've seen those matches, I don't even know that a full version of that exists on like YouTube, but we've all seen clips of that with the explosion and everything. Fire Pro Wrestling, if you have not played it, it's a Japanese-based wrestling game. It's 2D sprites. It's more arcade style. It's been out for the Super Nintendo. In America, you can get it on PS2. There's a PS2 version and the PS4. PS4 version is called Fire Pro Wrestling World. If you haven't played it, it's like $20 anywhere you go. I seriously recommend you picking it up and trying it because it's fantastic. It's the reason I used to be an Xbox One guy. When that game came out, they said it was going to be PlayStation only. I sold my Xbox and I bought a PlayStation. That's how much I love this game. So I would just say that's what I thought of immediately because you can do all sorts of matches in this, including an exploding barbed wire death match. But this is going to be pretty insane. For one, I can't remember the last time there was one. I mean, Funk and Mick Foley, I don't think it was the last one, but it was probably pretty close. Like, that's how long it's been. And my real question is this going to be perceived overly positive? I think we're going to be fine with it. We're 90s kids. We watched ECW and everything. I don't know that the world still looks at it like that. And this match can still be great, but I think they really do have to be careful how they go about this. They don't want to, when they had the one with Joey Janela and Kenny, the unsanctioned match or whatever, I was actually at that one in Daytona where, people got turned off from that. And then they had the lights out match when Dynamite first started. Not everybody loved that. So this, I'm interested for it. I'm here for it, but I don't know that everyone's going to feel that way about it.
Oh yeah, I was thinking the same thing because I was like they got a bad rep for the lights out match and for that Cody spot too at Fyter Fest.
Yeah.
With the chair. It's gonna be insane from my remembrance, my memory of that match. Whew. It's gonna be gruesome, man. I think they should do it like a cinematic match. I think that could be a cinematic match.
I don't know.
You could save the bodies. Yeah, you think so?
Well, you got fans again. You can't make the main event. You can't expect people to watch a main event on a TV screen. That's the thing.
Screen, yeah.
If they wanted to do that, they should have done it months ago when they had very little people there or whatever. But I'm interested to see. I think they're gonna spoon feed us more information about this in the next month before it happens. So we'll talk about it more. But again, I immediately thought of Fire Pro. If you haven't played it, definitely check it out. It's an amazing game. It has a lot of Japanese wrestlers on it, a handful of American wrestlers, and the new version you can download, similar to 2K's like Creation Suite. You can download any wrestler basically that's ever existed on this thing, and it's
that's the game. That's the game you showed me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it showed me that game. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, you give me a chance to. It's like NCAA football. It's just this cult classic game that everybody all these years later will still play. You can also get it on Game Boy Advance. Weirdly enough, I have one of those too.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Because again, it's like 2D sprites, so it's like it's not a very graphic intensive game really at the end of the day.
Okay.
So this coming Sunday, we already got another pay-per-view to talk about. We have Elimination Chamber, which the chamber matches have taken center stage, but we've got some other good stuff. We want to get this right out of the way. The list I'm looking at now has Asuka and Lacey Evans for the Raw Women's title. I think it's safe to say that match is not happening because whether it's kayfabe or not, apparently Lacey Evans is pregnant. At least that's what we're told on TV. They haven't hinted that it's Ric Flair, but they're going to go that way. They're at least going to let you sweat it out for a few weeks. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time talking about Lacey Evans may or may not being pregnant, but I'm assuming that match does not happen, so we're going to throw that out. But we will we'll do the non-chamber matches, and then we'll jump into those. So you got Lashley defending the U.S. title against Keith Lee and Riddle, which is a former tag team back in the Indies, which is interesting that they're thrown in here together. Do you think at this rate, should Lashley stay champion? Do you think it's going to go to one of these guys? I would love to see it on like Keith Lee, but I don't think they've pushed either of these guys to the level that they've made Lashley look. So I think he'll just, maybe they'll end up infighting and Lashley picks up the pieces, but I think Lashley retains here.
Yeah, I think Lashley's going to win as well. I just think what they're planning to do is have Lashley versus Keith Lee at Mania, which I hope they actually do that.
I'm okay with that.
What they could do is they could have Lashley pin Matt Riddle or Lashley tap out Matt Riddle, and then Monday Keith Lee could be like, "Hey, you knocked him out. You got him out. You ain't knocked me out."
Yeah, that's perfect.
Boom, you got yourself a match.
Dawn of WWE booking. Let's get it.
Come on, WWE, hit me up, man.
So I agree. That's the perfect way to go about it. And then Lee and Lashley at Mania for the title or not, that's money right there, honestly.
Yes.
I hope it's for the title because every couple of years the mid-card titles get lost at Mania and they don't, they get shoved into the money, the ladder matches or the other things, and it's not as big a deal. But I would, especially you got 2 nights to fill. There's no reason you can't have almost every belt on the line. Next week,
I think every belt should be on.
Yeah,
even the NXT
especially between the 2 nights.
Yeah.
So the next we have the WWE Championship match from Raw, the Elimination Chamber match. Drew McIntyre, AJ Styles, Jeff Hardy, Randy Orton, Sheamus, and Kofi Kingston. Before we get into this, I wanted to point out this badass picture. I learned screen share on here, Donovan. I think I've showed you this earlier, but WWE posted this to their Instagram, which I'm sorry for the audio listeners. I'll explain it. It's just this photo showing that everybody in the match is either the champion Drew McIntyre or a former WWE champion. You got Sheamus, Orton, Jeff Hardy, AJ, and at the time it was The Miz. It was then replaced by Kofi Kingston. But the fact still reigns true. It's all former champions against the WWE champion for the match. I thought that was a great concept, and they are making that part of the story, which I think is great. It just shows all these guys have been here before. And as great as it is, I mean, as the fan that I am, I'd love to see, Jeff Hardy swanton off of a thing and win the belt. But I think this is Drew retaining, and it might come down to him and Sheamus or something, but I still think they're leaning towards Drew versus Sheamus at Mania. I don't know that I love that, but that is the story that I see coming out here.
I see that too. I just don't like the fact that Drew got defended in the chamber. I'd rather him it be a number 1 contender.
Mm-hmm.
Not to just give someone, because you just had the Royal Rumble,
Yeah.
If you didn't just have the Royal Rumble, it'd be different. Because then why would I want to be in the Royal Rumble if I know that I could go at the next pay-per-view and go against the champion and I could possibly win it.
Yeah.
And then I could main event WrestleMania as well. So it's like
to play devil's advocate.
Do that.
I get what you mean, but with this, it's almost like they thought of that. They didn't, but it's almost like they did because everybody in this, they didn't necessarily earn it in some match, but you're in this because you're a former world champion. So the guys that were going to be in this would have been in this regardless of who won the Rumble, I guess is a way to look at that. So the way that they're building this, can't say that so much about the one on SmackDown, so that still proves your point. But for the one on Raw, I think it's the all former world champion. I would have loved for that to be a thing. It might get old after a couple years, but that could be a thing in the chamber. To gain access to the chamber, you have to be a former world champion. How cool would that be? How much of a big deal would that make the chamber scene then? I think that would work out pretty well. But it would get old fast.
It will get old because you get to see you'll see the same people in the
the same 10 guys in both chambers. Yeah, I get it. But like for a year or two, I think it'd be a great. Maybe SmackDown does it next year, so it feels a little fresh or something. But I assume, like, I was to put a cap on this, I assume Drew wins this is where I would see this going.
Yeah, that's where I'm going to.
SmackDown Universal title match, a little different. I'm sorry, chamber match for a shot at the Universal title the same night, which is quite a wrinkle. You got Jey Uso, Kevin Owens, King Corbin, Sami Zayn, Cesaro, and Daniel Bryan. This is going to be great. This is a lot of really talented guys and King Corbin in the same match. And here's what I want them to do. And I mentioned if Cesaro gets thrown into this, he's going to be my guy. The best way to make this, and granted, yes, the KO thing has happened. We don't need him to win this. You do it with Daniel Bryan, it could be very interesting. But how great of a show would it be? Because Reigns is losing the belt. What if Cesaro outlasts everybody and gets a match with Reigns right after and then pushes him to the limit? Of course, he still loses. Paul Heyman, yada, yada. Former manager Paul Heyman, whatever. But if Cesaro lasts 35 minutes in the chamber and then goes another 20 with Roman, that's a made man, regardless if he wins or not. And and they've really been teasing it. They've been talking about Cesaro more and more and how his time's coming and patience is love and all this stuff. And it's coming out of nowhere. So I don't know. I think it'd be the perfect way to really, if you really want to give him a chance, he's only been there for 8 years. Like, if you really want to attempt him as the main event, you could do it without even making him the champion, which is great. I think that's something you could do that with any of these guys, but Cesaro, I think it makes the most sense.
Yeah, I'm excited for this match, man. It sucks that they got to go fight Roman Reigns right after.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's
great booking, though. That is great booking. Yeah,
I love the heel work from Paul Heyman, bro. I love it. You said that he has to fight. He has to defend his title at the Elimination Chambers, not in the Elimination Chambers.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, chef's kiss. Shit, man. God, dog.
I
It's
assume
great.
because of that the Roman facing the winner will be the main event. I think that makes the most sense.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's why I think it's gonna be the first match, and then let them catch a breath, and let the other matches go on.
I don't
And then
know. I think they're gonna raise the chamber and
no,
yeah.
the Edge versus John Cena.
Yeah, I think they're gonna do it that way, where the dude, like I picked Cesaro, dude can barely stand up and the match starts, kind of thing. I think, yeah, yeah, that's what I think. I mean, your way makes more sense, but hey, I could see Heyman putting that in it too. It's got to be immediately after the match, like something like that. Either way, and this is gonna be great. There's not a lot of matches on this show. The women's title match, maybe they switch out an opponent, maybe they do a skit to take the place of this or something. But aside from that, there's only 4 matches, and obviously the chambers take a long time. They take 45 minutes themselves usually. So not a lot of matches, but that makes you think that the matches you see are going to have time, which is great, because I'll take less matches sometimes if the matches are just going to be good. You don't want them to be too long, but when a match like this is created around taking a long time, I think it makes a lot of sense.
Oh yeah, for sure. I believe that both Chambers matches would probably last about 30 to 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Each.
So that's half the show right there. The triple threat can go a while, and then even if the championship match with Reigns is only another like 10-15, that's a full show. And there'll be a Bad Bunny segment apparently, because that's a thing. And I will say this, I'm glad I reminded myself by saying that Damian Priest has been amazing since coming up. I don't know if him and Bad Bunny were like boys before this, or they're just kind of like sticking them together, but he's shown up. He looks like a star. He feels like a next guy coming up. They didn't, put him in a random match with Randy Orton and win by DQ like they did with Keith Lee. Like, they've made him seem like a big deal. He's very marketable. The whole arrow thing, I don't get it, but it's cool. I don't know what it represents.
He's the archer. He's saying he's the archer.
I mean, yeah, but like, what does that mean? Does he just shoot arrows on his spare time? It looks cool though. Like his shirt's gonna have the thing on it, and I'm gonna buy one because it's gonna be cool. But I look forward to what they've done with Damian Priest on the main roster. They don't do it off. They don't do well often. So when they do, I got to give him credit. I think they'll do something with him. I think Bad Bunny's got to be the longest reigning 24/7 champion already, because he's had it for like full days and not minutes. Maybe Gronk had it for like 2 weeks, I guess. So it's probably him. Or
but I think it's a publicity stunt, because he's supposed to be hosting or supposed to be at Saturday Night Live. So I won't be surprised if R-Truth comes up and tries to.
Whatever happens on Saturday Night Live, they'll talk about on the show. So that'll fill another 10 minutes of the show or whatever. But that's going to just about do it here. This show's going to be great. A lot of things can happen as we are on the road to WrestleMania. Let's point to the sign. There we go. So we are moving up here soon on the road to WrestleMania. I'm looking forward to this show. The Chamber in years past hasn't felt that special. It feels like a big deal this year. So I'm very much looking forward to it. That's going to wrap it up for this one, guys. I want to thank you all for listening. Any questions or comments you want to send us our way? We haven't plugged this in a while. #WrestleReportPod. Let us know what you think, other things we should talk about. We're also taking requests on some shows to review. We do have one lined up that we need to do. We've actually needed to do it for a while. So we're going to get to that here in the next week or so. I throw it on the episode because that means I have to do it. I have no excuse once I say it on the show. So look out for that. Got some wrestling video game reviews. I just went on about Fire Pro Wrestling, but there's another great game coming out soon that we're going to review. Again, I'm putting it out here so that we have to do it. But I appreciate you guys watching. Look out for that kind of twisted other content along with the traditional podcast in the future. Thank you guys for listening to the Wrestle Report, and we'll see you next time. Yeah.
Yeah.